are present. We'll begin with a Pledge of Allegiance by Vice Chair White.
Please rise if you are able and repeat after me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. We would now ask that you all join us in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Chair, if I could make a motion at the beginning here now to swear Angela Joburka in at this point in our agenda, rather than since she's officially unofficial at this point. Maybe we got to reofficialize her.
Yeah.
So I'll make that motion.
I'll second that one.
Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and move item 8A to this part of the agenda so that we can get her sworn in. She was unable to attend the meeting yesterday, and so we're going to take care of that today.
Yes, Chair, and I apologize for not being here yesterday.
No worries. So we have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Dodolsky to move item 8A to this part of the agenda. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. We'll now turn the time over to the recorder.
Okay, will you please stand? Thanks. Okay, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution
that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties
and I will discharge the duties
of my office with fidelity.
and I will discharge my duties with fidelity.
Of my office with fidelity. Sorry.
I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Great. Okay. Next up, we have a recognition for Bernard Augustine Devoto Day. And I get the honor of reading this. And tonight we have Scott Greenwell here also to accept that. So it reads, declaring January 11th, 2022 as Bernard Augustine Devoto Day in Ogden City. Whereas Bernard Augustine Devoto was born on January 11, 1897, raised in Ogden, and graduated from Ogden High School in 1914. He attended the University of Utah before transferring to Harvard University, where he graduated Phi Beta Kappa in 1920. And whereas Devoto successfully pursued a career in writing for more than 3 decades, become one of America's most prolific, recognized, and accomplished literary figures, a novelist, historian, journalist, cultural commentator, editor, humorist, teacher, and conservationist. And whereas the recipient of the nation's most prestigious award for writing, Devoto was the first Utahn to receive the Pulitzer Prize. He also received the National Book Award and the Bancroft Prize, which is the most distinguished award in the field of history. And whereas, in addition to becoming one of America's preeminent historians and a leading author on the American West, he was a Mark Twain scholar, curator, and editor of the Twain Papers. He was also the sesquicentennial editor of the Journals of Lewis and Clark, turning them into an American classic. And whereas his love of his native region inspired and enabled him to become one of the nation's most influential conservationists, and one of his generation's foremost defenders of public lands, including the national parks. And whereas Devoto is considered by the renowned Wallace Stegner and others to be Utah's most prominent writer and certainly the most celebrated literary figure ever to emerge from his hometown of Ogden. And whereas we are grateful for the opportunity to highlight Devoto's legacy and to celebrate his achievements as one of Ogden City's most notable figures, his importance and influence will continue to live on for generations to come. Now, therefore, Mayor Michael P. Caldwell and the Ogden City Council do hereby proclaim January 11th, 2022 as Bernard Augustine Devoto Day in Ogden City to recognize and celebrate the 125th anniversary of his birth, his significant achievements as a writer and historian, and for his efforts to protect the environment and preserve Western lands and resources, passed and adopted this day. With that, I would go ahead and make a motion that we adopt this joint proclamation.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by myself and a second by Councilmember Heyer to adopt this joint proclamation declaring January 11th, 2022 as Bernard Augustine Devoto Day in Ogden City. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you. And as mentioned earlier, we have Scott Greenwell here, so we'd love to have you come forward. We've got... We'll have you come and shake everyone's hand, but we've got...
Or fist bump, whatever
This
is
for you,
right.
yeah, or fist bump, whatever. Oh, there's Scott. Thank you so much for being here. And then whoever came with you, we'd love to get a picture over here with everybody.
You join me out here. We have committee members.
Yeah, they'd all love to shake your hand.
We'd love to shake your hand. Y'all gotta line up right through
Yep.
here.
Okay, come on. We'll get everybody.
We're going to stand right down here, so we'll get everybody in.
Thank you.
Oh, all right, all right.
Okay, if I can get you to stand right in front of the
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So much.
That's right, bad.
Yeah. High five.
Tell too, so.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't you go the other way?
Yeah.
Tell people.
Awesome.
Okay. Council members, find your window. Okay, all right, everybody looking here. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there you go. That's
There you
nice
go.
button done. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And one more for insurance. Thank you so much.
Mr. Greenwell.
Yeah. Hear from you. Okay. So if you would too. Thank you very much for inviting us here for this special occasion. We appreciate it so much. Brandon has just given you a couple of items that I think will help understand the reasons for our doing what we're doing. We have a grassroots organization called the Bernard Devoto Commemoration Committee. And that grassroots organization got together about a little over 2 years ago and began planning recognition for the individual we consider to be Ogden's most important literary native son, Bernard Augustine Devoto. And we've been planning through the pandemic, along with everything else, to try and put together some recognition events. His birthday, he was born just a year after statehood. And January 11th marks the 125th anniversary of Devoto's birth right here in Ogden, Utah. Grew up here, as the proclamation indicates, graduated from Ogden High, went on to the University of Utah and to Harvard, and became, over the course of a career that was cut short by his untimely death. He died suddenly at the age of 58, but he emerged in the course of those 3 decades as to become one of the nation's most prominent literary figures. He was a historian. He was a fiction writer, published 10 novels, published well over 850 articles in major journals and magazines throughout his life. He was an editor. He taught at Northwestern University in Chicago area, taught at Harvard, became the editor of several magazines, and held down a post at Harper's Magazine, very influential magazine, for about 20 years as the editorial writer for Harper's Magazine. A very distinguished individual, a controversial individual. I won't get into the controversy, but we are very fortunate, I think, in Ogden to have given rise to such an important and distinguished figure as Bernard Devoto. He grew up here. He was non-Mormon in a predominantly Mormon community. As you might guess, Ogden was only had a population of about 16,000 people when he reached his teen years in town. And he was labeled a sissy. He was, I guess, in today's parlance, we would say that he was bullied. He wasn't a victim, though. He gave as good as he got, sometimes even better. He was brash. He was outspoken. And when he finally left Ogden at the age of 25 in 1922, he went back east, as I indicated, first to Northwestern, and then settled with his wife Avis in Cambridge, Massachusetts, to pursue a literary career. And in the course of that career, as I mentioned, became a very distinguished individual. Wrote a series of histories of the American West, of our region, the Rocky Mountain West, across the wide Missouri, which won the Pulitzer Prize and the Bancroft Prize in history. He wrote The Course of Empire, which won a National Book Award, and capped out the trilogy with my favorite of his books, Year of Decision, 1846. And so we're really pleased and honored to have you pass a measure such as this. And I believe it gives long overdue recognition to a figure that, quite frankly, not very many people in Ogden or in Utah know or have heard very much about. And I think it's significant, too, in the fact that this year, 2022, marks the 100th anniversary of his departure from Ogden. And so the resolution, in my estimation, the proclamation, serves as a kind of a welcome home. Bern, it's been a long time, and we welcome you back, and all of the flaws and the controversy and the things that followed you in your career, we don't want to cover that up, but he was a tremendous individual, and I think he ranks really in the top tier of important individuals who came out of our city here in Ogden. So I thank you very much, and I appreciate the support that we've received. In that pamphlet, if you get a chance to open that up and look inside the cover, you'll see the committee and also the goals that we have established for this year. We have a number of activities planned. We have a lecture coming up on January 24th in conjunction with the Weber Historical Society. It's called Three Portraits and One Individual. Ogden's Bernard Devoto. We've got 3 Devoto scholars who will come in for that. It's open to the public. It'll be held on campus at Weber State at the Hearst Center. And we have 3 very fine scholars who will come in and talk about Devoto's time in Ogden, his career as a historian, and his contributions in the area of land and resource conservation. We also have an event in conjunction with the library, the main library, coming up in March on the 24th, I believe, and it'll be a book discussion using the book that Devoto was working on at the end of his career. It's called The Western Paradox, a conservation reader. And Professor Catherine McKay back here will be conducting that discussion. And then during the month of April, the special collections at Weber State will be working in conjunction with the really Ogden City and the Union Station to present an exhibit that will be an ongoing exhibit at Union Station that will focus on conservation over time in the Ogden area, and will highlight some of the achievements and some of the accomplishments and some of the contributions that Devoto made in that area. And then to cap things off in the fall, the Trails Foundation of Northern Utah. We're cooperating with them, and they have invited a New York journalist by the name of Nate Schweber. Nate has just written a brand new biography of Bernard Devoto and his wife Avis. That book will be published on July 5th, and he will be the featured speaker at the Trails Foundation's Authors Dinner on September 23rd, and that will be held at the Monarch here in downtown Ogden. So that'll be a terrific event. There are also some other events that will unfold over the course of the year. We're hoping to generate support for a documentary film. I don't know how many of you have seen the PBS documentary on Wallace Stegner that was done a dozen or so years ago. We'd like to see something like that done on Bernard Devoto. We'd also like to see some kind of a memorial established here in Ogden, and will be open with the public for suggestions as far as creating some kind of a memorial to Devoto. As it stands, you have to travel 500 miles from Ogden up to the Idaho-Montana border to find a memorial, and there's a very beautiful memorial up there in the Clearwater National Forest, but you have to go 500 miles to see it. We think we ought to have something here in Ogden. I love the drive up there, but I'd like to see something a little closer as well. So again, I know I've gone over, and I thank you all very much. Appreciate especially Brandon Garside's help along the way. He's been very valuable to us. So thank you very much. And on behalf of the committee, thank you. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the read.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have a request to be on the agenda. HBME presenting the fiscal year 2021 audit. And we have Aaron Hickson
Here, Brenda.
and Jeff Miles here to present that.
How are you?
Thank you very much. Yes, I am Aaron Hickson. I'm an audit partner for HBME, and my colleague here, Jeff Miles, is also an audit partner. I was over the federal grants portion, and Jeff did the general finance portion. I will be presenting the results of both here. I wanted to let you know that we issued a unmodified or clean opinion of the financial statements for the year ended June 30th, 2021. And that is the highest opinion that an independent auditor can give. In addition to that opinion, we are also required per Yellow Book or governmental auditing standards to look at the internal control environment of the city and make sure that there is a adequate controls in place, and also as it relates to federal grants. We did not find any issues that we felt warranted any kind of a written finding. Throughout the course of an audit, there are always small recommendations that we will discuss with management to tweak procedures here and there, and none of them merited any kind of discussion above that level. I will move on from the financial portion only because Lisa Stout will be discussing that in depth. But I do want to move to the single audit and Utah State compliance portion. And this is in a separate document from the financial statements. And I wanted to talk about the federal grants portion of the city. For any time there is you expend at least $750,000 in one fiscal year, not awarded, but actually expend, that triggers a federal single audit. The city expended approximately $24 million. So my guess is about January or July 1st, it triggered an audit. So of that $24 million, approximately $16 million related to CARES Act or coronavirus relief funds. And these are labeled throughout. There's approximately 20 or so grants that were expended during the fiscal year. And we are required to analyze these grants, and then a single audit is that we will then, with that analysis, then we will determine what are considered major grants, and then from that we will just do in-depth procedures. So we selected 3 different grants. The airport improvement grant. Also, we are required, because of that, to look at the COVID element of that. The coronavirus relief fund, because that had about $14 million of itself, in and of itself, of expenditures. And then there was another grant, emergency watershed, to fix some damage due to the Ogden River banks. And I want you to know that during our procedures, we worked extensively with not only personnel at the city, but also pass-through entities, Weber County being one of them. And we looked at the internal control environments over approval process, over grant compliance, and we did not find anything that warranted any kind of a written finding. I want you to know that as an auditor, I look at the warm fuzzies, as I call them. And when you get to a client and you start talking to personnel, you can assess pretty quickly whether the staff understand what their responsibilities are, whether or not there is good controls, whether or not there's a good tone at the top. And when you make requests, you just kind of get an understanding that these are experienced people. They know what they're talking about. When they don't know the answer, they know how to get it. They don't just tell you what you want to hear. When I get that kind of a level, then I can treat how I approach something very differently. And so I want you to know that throughout the process, I was very impressed with all of the personnel that I met with and needed to get documentation from. And that was the same on the financial side. And that is a good thing. And I want to commend the finance department and all of the other departments that we dealt with, because we feel like they do a good job and they strive for excellence in what they do. We had, moving on from that, we are required to look at some of the requirements that the State Auditor's Office of Utah wants us to look at. And this is in the Utah State Audit Compliance Guide. Every year they want us to look at making sure that there is compliance with the laws and regulations of the state of Utah. These don't generally have a materiality level, and so it's more of a yes-no. So are you doing it or are you not? Even if we were to look at 300 things and you didn't do it one time, they want us to report that as a non-compliant item. And so with that, there was one finding that I wanted to bring to your attention that will shortly be remedied. We believe this is a minor finding. Your Dinosaur Park Fund was operating at a deficit fund balance of approximately $28,000. This occurred because of some inventory and a transfer that was made, 3 or 4 years ago, and it just has sat there. And so management is aware of this issue, and they are going to propose a budget amendment in February. A transfer will be made from the general fund upon your approval as council to zero out this deficit, and then the fund will be closed and everything will be okay. I do not believe that this will be discussed formally beyond our discussion here. You might get a letter from the state, but I doubt it. We do, again, consider this to be a minor violation, but it is against the law, technically, for any fund to run at a deficit fund balance. That is all we have for our presentation. I'm happy to field any questions that you may have before we turn the time over to Lisa.
I don't see any. Thank you.
Wonderful. I
Yep,
put you all
did
to
a great
sleep.
job. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Aaron.
Okay, before we hear from Lisa, we'll go ahead and I would entertain a motion to accept for review the audit report for fiscal year 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Great. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer to accept for review the presentation of the audit report for fiscal year 2021, and a second by Councilmember Nadolski. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you. And next up, we have the fiscal year 2021 annual comprehensive financial report. And I saw Lisa. There she is. Lisa Stout here. Yep, she was hiding.
Here's our hero.
Here to present to us tonight.
Thank you, Chair, Council members. I appreciate HBME and their experience and knowledge in governmental accounting. This is our second year working with them to complete the financial audit for the city. They bring with them a wealth of knowledge, and Jeff and Aaron are actually on site most of the audit and are able to resolve any issues and get through field work very quickly because of their experience and knowledge. I'm very pleased to present the annual financial report of the city. Thinking through what I wanted to say tonight, how do you condense a huge 300-page financial statement into just a few pieces of information? So very high level, I just wanted to share some things with you from the financial statement. Before I do that, though, I would like to thank the city administration and city council for their support. It is a huge undertaking to put together all of these numbers and information. We start in May with planning and pretty much have at least one person working full-time on the audit during that time, and then augmented staff as necessary. Corley Jensen was our primary person on the audit this year. She did a fabulous job, not only with the financial audit, but also with the CARES funding and keeping track and making sure that was properly accounted for. The financial report and the single audit can both be found at the website up on the screen, OGDENCITY.com, budget and finance. The single audit report we just got today, so that is currently not there. It should be by 10 o'clock tomorrow. But the financial report is available online. We do it by year, so we're still reporting for fiscal year 21. But you're welcome to review the financial report. My recommendation is to read the management analysis, which starts on page 21. It's about 10 pages long and kind of summarizes key points in the financial report. Just quickly, The change in, I'm going to talk about just at the fund level. The change in the general fund balance was about 2.8 million in unassigned fund balance over and above the 5% required by the state. We ended up being about 31% fund balance. The state requirement is 35. So the city overall improved the fund balance levels for the city. The city invested $38.6 million in assets this year. That includes infrastructure investment for water, sewer, and storm sewer, in addition to equipment and parks and all of the other, the firehouse rehab that was completed. Just of note, in vehicle and equipment, the city outlay for capital was $7.2 million last year. And we know that our fleet has suffered, and we've been trying to improve that. That huge investment into equipment certainly has helped with that fleet position. I also just wanted to note that we paid off $7.8 million in debt. That's principal payments for debt reduction. The city did issue new debt in the amount of just nearly $41 million. There was a refunding, so when you read the report, it looks like we paid off more and took out more in debt, but when you net out what was refunded for a lower interest rate, we paid off $7.8 million in principal, and we took out just under $1 million in new loans, and that was to finance heavy equipment in the fleet fund. Again, this is just some high-level observations about the financial report. I know that your staff will spend time investigating and reading, and we will have a work session in February with the auditors present to answer any additional questions and go through the audit in more detail. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Lisa. Any questions for Lisa? As she mentioned, we will schedule a work session in mid-February to kind of go over this more. Okay.
Can I just make a quick comment while Lisa's still in the room? I don't know if Carly behind you.
She's behind the pole over
She's
here.
around the pole.
Yeah. There she is.
These guys do such a great job. We sit on the Finance Audit Committee, Councilmember Heyer and I, and it's just always amazes me how in-depth you know about every question we ask before we even ask it. So thank you. Thank you for all you're doing. So thanks. Keep up the great work.
I would just echo that. I wrote down here, and since the jokes have already started coming, I think I've been at this for 12 years now. And so I've been through 12 different audits, and I've never once had an auditor come and say that anything but just the highest praise for you and your team. So thanks so much for all that you do and the way that you represent our city.
Chair, can I say one quick thing?
Please.
I know you want to go home. I'm going to let you go home, but you know, a lot of times we all come here and the public and, you know, council members, staff, administration, we see agreements and we see disagreements happen here. All of that's good and it's okay. It's healthy. That doesn't mean that we don't recognize the good. The administration does a lot of really good things, and finances, the way that you guys have managed this department is one of them. You guys are examples of the incredible staff that we have that Mark and the mayor tell us about all the time. But we see it, we see you, and we love you, appreciate you, and man, you guys are impressive. Thanks.
Thanks, you guys.
Okay. With that, I would entertain a motion.
Chair, I'll make a motion then that we accept for review the fiscal year 2021 annual comprehensive financial report.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer to accept for review the annual comprehensive financial audit report for fiscal year 2021, and a second by Vice Chair White. This is a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Chair, there is one thing I think that came out that I don't think they mentioned. I think it's just going to be a change in our vernacular. We don't call that a CAFR anymore. So,
That's right.
So I don't know what we do call it. Do we
Annual comprehensive financial report.
just call it the annual report? Yeah. Okay. So just for, being up to date, that's what we do. So.
I was just getting used to calling it the CAFR.
Yeah.
Only took 38 years.
Exactly. Okay. Next up, we have 2 items listed under common consent, the Diversity Commission appointments and the Marshall White Center Advisory Committee appointments. I would entertain a motion for the common consent items.
Chair, I would make a motion that we adopt the common consent agenda as it's listed.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Vice Chair White to adopt the 2 items listed under common consent. This too is a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes. Next up, we have a public hearing for the Satnam Singh Honorary Street name, and we have Barton Brierly here tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Blair and City Councilors. Good to be with you tonight. So this is a hearing to consider adding the honorary street name of Satnam Singh Drive to 675 Newark. So just to start with, what is an honorary street name? An honorary street name is added to an existing street name. So the street retains its existing name. It's just the honorary name is added to it, such as we did on Cesar Chavez Street. It's usually a street sign above the existing sign. As you can see, it retains its existing street name. So if you have an address on the street, you can still use your existing address, or you can use the honorary name if you choose to. If you're looking for directions and you look at the original street name, you should be able to find it according to the original street name. So who is Satnam Singh? He's most known as the operator of the super grocery at the corner of 675 North in Monroe. He was operated that for a number of years. There's a number of tributes for him of adults who went there as a child and remembered him and made many visits there. He was known for being very cordial, and many people said he knew their name as they walked in, and knew the name of their children and their families. He was known for being very kind. I read a number of the tributes to him of people who were just having a bad day, and he would sit with them and talk with them and allow them to have a conversation. There were stories of people who'd come in who didn't have enough money for groceries, and he would provide groceries for them. So definitely a high quality individual that did a lot for our community, and it was lost to our community when his life was tragically taken just almost a year ago by an incident at the store, and it's sad for him and his family and all those who remembered him. So after his passing, some of the residents thought about how, and people who remembered him thought about how can we memorialize his life. And there's really no doubt that his life does deserve some memorial and remembrance, and I believe remembrance for his life, not the tragic way that it ended. So after his passing, there was an online petition put up to rename 675 North, to add the honorary street name of Satnam Singh Drive to that street. That is where Super Grocery is. And that garnered several thousand signatures, and that's why this is before you tonight. So in looking at this question, there's really two questions to answer. First is does the honorary street name serve a public purpose? We've already resolved that yes, this gentleman, his life deserves a memorial, but is this the way to memorialize him? And generally a street name should serve a public purpose, not just a private purpose. And the second question is, would it basically cause any problems to an emergency services or to someone making a delivery or to residents or the public trying to find an address there. And on the first one, we had struggled really answering this question because there isn't a whole lot of guidance in the ordinance. The ordinance says that the request shall include a statement regarding the public purpose to be accomplished by the means of the change, but it doesn't give you a lot of guidance about what a public purpose would be. Now, we know that the council's been going through a process to update that ordinance and flesh that out more, but at the time of the request, there really isn't more direction than that. The city has adopted 6 honorary street names. 2 were prominent national figures, Martin Luther King Jr. and Cesar E. Chavez. 3 were for schools. And we have 1 that was recent for a local historical figure, Chief Little Soldier Way. And it's clear that it's not just honoring Chief Little Soldier, but it's also honoring our Native American heritage for the original residents of Ogden. So in looking at this, the Planning Commission did look at the general plan and tried to see how would this name change or this honorary street name fit in the general plan. One policy that we did look at is a policy to develop community pride, and the commission kind of debated whether this would add some pride to the community. But ultimately, the Planning Commission couldn't come up with a majority recommendation on whether it would serve a public purpose or not. On the second question is, would the honorary street name cause problems? Was it consistent with the layout of the city? Would it have negative impacts on or confusion to people using the street or those living on the street? There's sort of an interesting analysis. 675 North is not a straight street, and it starts on Jefferson Avenue on the west, and it actually starts there between 700 North and 800 North, so it's out of sequence there. And then on the east end, it just kind of ends and suddenly becomes 670 North. There's no street sign about where 675 North stops and 670 North starts there. Actually looked at, if you put an honorary street name on there, it might actually help identify that as one consistent street, that if you're traveling up or down Jefferson Avenue, you could tell somebody, hey, look for this honorary street name, might help you find it out of sequence. And on the other end, this was a staff suggestion that if you were to adopt as an honorary street name, that you continue it and include 670 North also. Just thinking about maybe a kid going to the park might recognize that it's that honorary street name at the park, it's the honorary street name at the other end, and recognize that that's a continuous road. So actually might help relieve some confusion rather than cause some confusion. Also looked at how does it affect emergency services. I spoke with both the fire and police personnel, and they didn't see any issues with this. I pulled out my cell phone and said, hey, find Cesar Chavez Street. And it correctly found Cesar Chavez Street. So I think these honorary street names are not causing issues with finding them. And again, as we mentioned, that it might actually help a little bit so on finding the street. So we didn't identify any confusion issues. And then the impacts on residents. I think the best testimony of that is there was a significant number of the residents along 675 North. Now, we didn't do 670 North, but on 675 North that did sign the petition. So I think they feel that it wouldn't have an impact on them. And note that they can continue to use their existing address, so they don't have to change their checks or their mailing or their deeds or anything like that. So ultimately, the big question is, that public purpose, and is this a city policy that that we would name a street, not give an honorary street name in such case as this. The Planning Commission didn't reach a majority recommendation. Some felt that it would serve a purpose to provide some uplift or some celebration of to the community. Others felt that the city ought to be spending its resources in other ways, and that there's just a big pool of people that could be honored, that are good citizens, and whose lives deserve memorial. But we're kind of opening up a big box if we use street names to honor individuals whose lives deserve memorial. So the Planning Commission ended up with a split vote and did not reach a majority recommendation. Staff isn't giving you a positive recommendation on this. We would recommend that council complete its deliberation on ordinance updates, giving better guidance on when you would consider a person as an honorary street name. But we didn't identify any problems that it would cause if you did, and that if you are going to do the honorary street name, we would also consider 670 North on that. So that concludes the staff report.
Thank you, Barton. Any questions for Barton tonight?
Was there a vote from the Planning Commission on these?
There was. It was a 4-4 vote. So
4-4?
Yeah.
They actually made 3 different votes, and that was the best one that got, was 4-4.
Yes.
So.
Yes, a vote to approve failed 4-4, and then a vote to deny failed 3-5. So.
Mm-hmm.
Is the petitioner here, or
yes? Yes. Okay.
Thanks, Barton.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yep. We do have the petitioner, Mr. Redden. If you're welcome to speak. Mm-hmm.
All right, so my name's Jesse Redden. First of all, I want to thank Glenn for basically walking me through this city council business. I want to thank Mr. Montgomery and Mr. Brierly for putting together such a wonderful presentation. I wrote this speech in the hallway, so I might have some pauses here while I gather from my notes. So I moved here when I was 2 years old to 1200 North. My parents both worked for the railroad. The railroad brought us to Ogden. And I lived there till I was 18 or so. I graduated from Ben Lomond High School. After that, I didn't go to college. I found the railroad, shockingly enough. And so I moved away for that. And I moved back roughly around 2008 to 2nd Street, where I live now. So I'm definitely from the area. I knew Sat pretty personally, just like I won't get into all the awesome stuff he did because that's pretty much been covered over and over again. It's not really deniable at this point that he was a good dude. So I attended the work session a few weeks ago, and I kind of read the room there, and I saw there was a little bit of opposition with some folks. And what I was hearing was that some of the council members didn't see that it rose to the level or the public purpose was there. And I made an argument during the Planning Commission meeting about the public purpose because there is no level or public purpose in this particular ordinance that's defined or stated. So my argument was that with all the street names that were considered and approved under this ordinance, that basically the public purpose was kind of just came up with in general. So, does Satnam Singh rise to the level of Martin Luther King? I don't know. But each time a new public purpose was created. So the argument to them was, why can't we create another public purpose? I do believe the Planning Commission laid out some great public purposes, though, with bringing the Mount Lewis community out of the negative aspect, the confusion of the meandering street. So there's some good public purposes, in my opinion, there. I am fully aware that there is a new ordinance in the works, and some council members wanted to possibly review this under the new ordinance, but I submitted it under the current ordinance, so it has to be done per the rules, I believe, under this ordinance. So I'm not going to be super surprised if the vote today doesn't go the way that I would particularly want it to go. However, at that same work session that I was at a few weeks ago, there were council members who were in support and who did have suggestions of other ways to honor Mr. Singh. Francis Park, if you remember up there on the map, Francis Park right there, it's at the west end of 675 North, and it's similarly named with Francis Peak. Both are named after Esther Charlotte Emily Weisbrot Francis, who contributed to the colonization of the Morgan Valley. And the actual peak itself reigns over Fruit Heights, basically. And Frances, even has a radar station named after her, which is, in my opinion, one of the greatest honors you could possibly have. I don't want to take away from the achievements of Miss Frances or say that she wasn't an important settler. I'm just saying that if this doesn't pass, maybe we could consider renaming that park to someone who's more local or connected to the area. In doing so, I don't believe we would be getting rid of Miss Frances. And like I said, she has a radar station, so maybe she can give up the park. I don't know. We'll get that figured out, hopefully, at some point. How am I doing, Glenn? Thanks. Anyway, when I was collecting signatures up and down that street, which at times were interesting, people at the door, not that my aunt lives on the corner down there. She actually petitioned this with me, but I remember looking over at the park and just briefly being like, wow, that'd actually be way easier, but I don't even know how to go about that, to just make that park instead of what some of the folks who live there, not that they didn't say yes or anything, but it was definitely interesting. Anyway, I was thinking it would be cool to rename the park, and actually the fact that one of the council members did bring that up last time, I did find that pretty outstanding. So although I do still have hope that this will pass today, if it does not, here's the big finish, okay? If it doesn't, lost my place there. Oh, I just ask that this matter please be brought up in the future, and that the council in some way, shape, or form does find a way to help honor Mr. Singh, and that this issue isn't forgotten or falls by the wayside. Thank you. Any questions for me? Oh, hey, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Any questions?
Speech. It was good.
All right. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Chair, I loved the humor.
Yes.
That was very good.
Yeah. Okay, this is a public hearing, so we will now open it up for public comment on this item. And can we see online also? Thanks.
I'm Bob Swatsky, 762 Liberty Avenue. I walk and bike and sometimes cross-country ski through that area too, and it is a confusing street. I think that's a good idea to rename it, but the other idea about renaming the park was brilliant. I think I second that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We do have a hand raised from someone joining us online. We'll go ahead and take that comment now. Thank you, Angel Castillo. Brandon will allow you, and the time is yours.
Excellent. Thank you, Sheriff. Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. I'd like to thank all the council members for the consideration that we're putting into this. I know that the last time we went through the street renaming, it was quite a large exercise. I also understand that the ordinance is being updated, and I get that, and I think it's a good thing to do so, because we want to make sure that we have a very specific focus and ground rules. However, as the applicant had mentioned, you're currently operating under an existing ordinance. And if you're going to follow the law, you should consider this under the law. I am also heartened that other council members have mentioned, well, maybe not a street, but maybe a park. And if you do decline this, I suggest that you would seriously look into that, because I've lost count of how many times the mayor and the council have said that we're a diverse city and we celebrate our diversity. And this is an opportunity to make sure that you're acknowledging a member of the community who is a member of diversity, who is a BIPOC community member and did great things for his community. And I'd also like to remind you how everybody keeps saying on the council that we want community engagement. We want people to show up. And we just talked about in the work session how we need a good sampling of 1,500 people by census tract to have a good representation. But I'd like you to take a look at the numbers of the people that signed that petition. The people in that neighborhood want to own Mr. Singh. And I believe that it's your duty to really follow the will of the people. And whatever that may look like, I think it should be a street, because it does solve some problems with discontinuity in street name. But it needs to be honored. This is a person who did a great deal for our community, who is a BIPOC leader in his community, or was, and his community put in the work to lift him up. And I think that deserves to be honored, and I'd like to ask you to seriously consider renaming the street for Mr. Singh, and if not, renaming the street to really put some decisive action into finding another way to honor Mr. Singh in perpetuity with a park or something similar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, seeing no more movement, I would like to make a motion to close the public hearing on this item.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Nadolski to close the public hearing on this item. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Sorry, I have a quick question. So is the reason that we're considering this street or that street is because it goes in front of the grocery store?
Yes.
Does the grocery store always have to be there?
No.
So it could go away?
It could go away, yes.
Just curious. They didn't look at any other streets, straight streets?
Not that I know of.
Checking.
Any other questions or comments?
No, thanks.
I will say to the petitioner and to anyone, I too, when I first saw that, I thought, oh, I don't know if that street really is, a resounding tribute to someone that really gave to that community, and I thought the park would be a great tribute for that. When I said that, I had no idea the process either. So now I'll take the baton, and maybe Glenn can walk me through that. So I know it is a bit of a tough challenge, because it goes under the same thing as naming a building, any type of that. So any city facility in the parks fall under that. So there is, although I do think it is a wonderful tribute to Mr. Singh, and I think it would be a remarkable thing to have in our community. There are some steps that need to be taken for that. So,
Chair?
Yes.
I have a question for the petitioner.
Sure.
Do you happen to know much about the family? Yeah, sure.
So after I did the online petition, let's just name the street, and then I was like, oh, there's actually an official way to do this. And then I got into that. I went back to the store a few times, pretty recent after his death, and I ran into his daughters, and that's the day I met them both. And I was like, oh, hey, I'm the guy trying to rename the street. They're like, oh my gosh, yeah, they were super.
You didn't know them before?
No, I didn't know his. Well, I mean, I interacted with them. I think he has 2 daughters. One would work in the mornings, so I would see her sometimes, but I definitely didn't have the relationship with her that I did with her dad. But yeah, I have met the daughters, and I'm actually friends with one of them on Facebook, if that gives you any indication where we're at now.
You know if he was married?
Are they married? I don't think they're married. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Because I can't really tell.
Mr. Singh.
Oh, Mr. Singh, was he married?
Uh-huh.
That's a good question. I never once asked about his wife in all those years.
You don't know that?
I'm pretty sure that he was. But they have an ethnic name process. I believe they're from Punjab. And so I think like the last names come first, or I could be completely slaughtering that, so I couldn't even tell you.
But you never met his spouse?
No, I have never met his spouse.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to make a comment if that's okay, Chair.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you so much for your engagement. We certainly do talk about how we always want people to come forward with ideas and rallying around this particular community member. I just really appreciate that. I think that sometimes in conversations I've been in, the corner store people or the corner stores themselves kind of get bad names, but I appreciate them so much, those business entities and people that work there, because they're willing to serve areas in our community that other entities aren't. We're begging to get a grocery store, right, in some of those communities, and we can't get one, but we have other folks that are willing to serve the communities where they are, so I appreciate that. And I think it's interesting when you were kind of talking about the public significance or, the public prominence in the community. I think that's a really interesting thing for us to contemplate a little bit around how, certainly there's certain people that rise to a certain level of national importance, historic importance, but there are these folks that are like the regular folks that I think are super important for us to think about their impact on the community, because a person in that position probably interacts with more community members than I have in my whole time here. Maybe Councilmember Blair has encountered a few more, but I think it's definitely worth contemplating all the different ideas. I do think there's credence to waiting a certain period after someone's passed, to think about what that importance or how we want to honor them. And I would love to engage with the family a little bit more to understand what would be the best for them, because I think that's really important to me too. I would hate to do something that then had any negative, implications that I can't even think of, but that might be negative for them too. So I just really appreciate it, and I think we all should consider it.
I appreciate you touching on that. I agree. As Barton was given his presentation, that's the part that I thought about too. Is how do you measure someone's community engagement or community involvement or what they do for citizens? Because, if roles were reversed and that was that happened to me, I remember my family. Again, and I'm not putting myself up there, but one of the first things that would be said was, well, he served on the city council, but that didn't mean that I served any more people than I did at my everyday job and the people that I served every day. And so there is a definite there is a definite correlation of what those people or what people do in their everyday lives with the people they interact with and the impact they have on our citizens.
I guess just to follow on that too, when I think about that, we don't want to emphasize how he, he was killed, right? We don't want to emphasize that aspect, but I think, that's part of that job or part of that situation that he was in. And so in some ways that is part of the story of him having this impact in the community and then being lost in that way. And so not that I want to dwell on that necessarily, but and I do think it's really important, as Angel was mentioning, to think about how we want to honor diversity in our community too. So I think this conversation should continue, whatever the resolution is today.
Chair, I've got a couple of comments. not real passionate about this one way or the other, really, but it is my municipal district, and so I took it under my felt some responsibility to poll some people and see how they felt about this, knowing that it was coming, and many were pretty indifferent. However, most of the folks that I spoke with, and this has been recently, this wasn't right after it happened. This was, recently. Felt like it set a bad precedence, and not that he wasn't a good person. Had nothing to do with the quality of the individual. But we don't have enough streets to rename to honor all the good people that are in this community, and especially historically. And so that was the general sentiment that I got from most people that I spoke with recently about this. The ones that we currently have in our city, other than school names, which they have their own life, they would go away if the school did. They are historical figures that people do know who they are. They'll know who they are in 20 years. They'll know who they are in 50 years. They're going to be people. Mr. Singh, I question whether this will be of any significance after 10 years or so, if it would, the relevance would still be around. And I have also asked myself, if he'd have died of natural causes, would we be even having this discussion? And I doubt that we would. So I am sorry to say that the ordinance gives very little guidance on this issue. And so I don't feel a lot of help from the ordinance. It's not really guiding us in this, which is kind of why we're doing reviewing an ordinance. So anyway, I just wanted to present those things as findings that I have received, and I have kind of felt as we've looked through this. Same thing is true if we don't have enough streets to honor all the good people in our city. We probably don't have enough parks either. Maybe we can find a radar base we could name after him. I don't know, but I'm just not believing that it fits what we're talking about. That's where I find myself.
Thank you.
You want to try a stab at a motion? See what happens?
Sure.
Unless somebody else wants to speak. I don't want to cut anybody off. Okay. Well, I think I've stated my findings of fact for this. Not that we really need to, but concerning the proposed resolution 2022-1, I would make a motion that we deny that resolution.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer to deny proposed resolution 2022-1 and a second by Vice Chair White. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Chaburka?
Yeah.
Aye. Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski?
Aye.
Councilmember Ritchie?
Aye.
Vice Chair White?
Aye.
Chair Blair?
No. And I'll go ahead and clarify my no vote. I totally understand with your points, and I appreciate you bringing those up, and I agree there is a fine line, and but I do believe that it is our role to honor and to celebrate those people that and you're right, I don't think we can do everybody. But I don't know if, I mean, I'm not from that area of town, therefore I had no idea who Francis was either. So so I agree, and I like Mr. Redden, I could sense the vibe of the room in the work session, so I kind of knew this was coming, and which kind of got me thinking maybe there was something else we could do. And I think I can work with the petitioner and with Glenn also, and maybe we can find something that works for everybody. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Chair, if I could make a real quick comment too. And I want to say thank you for reaching out to the community. You said you had 3,000 signatures or something like that?
I got pretty much everybody on the street, but
I don't know how
when
many.
it came to the online petition, there was people from around the world who signed it. So.
But it takes an act of love to do that. So I appreciate you doing that as well. So thank you for being part of our community.
I want to thank you too. I certainly honor your efforts, and I hope you don't. I hope you understood what I was trying to say, and nothing to do with him and those things. I think it just was a bad fit. So. Thank you. Thank you.
And Chair, can I make a quick comment?
Yes, please.
I just think it is striking that on a day like today, where we're talking about Bernard Augustine Devoto and kind of how he's this unknown figure, I do hope that we can figure out a way to honor Mr. Singh, because I think that is appropriate. And I just, for several reasons as well, didn't feel like the naming of the street was the right way to do that, but I do hope we can figure out another way to do that.
Chair?
Yes.
Just echoing some of the comments. Thank you so much for your efforts. I'm actually not opposed to naming the street. I'm opposed to it today, to doing it today. I personally feel like I don't have enough information to make that decision today. But either is a street or a park or some other kind of recognition down the road, I would be happy to help. I'm also a little bit concerned that we don't have support of his family, that we don't know much about what his family is thinking or saying. And I would, if we can do something in the future down the road, I would love to figure out a way to engage with his family a little bit more as well. So thank you.
I do think we do have support of his daughters. Like, they thanked me.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about his spouse. If that's an unknown, that will be very, very important to me.
Agreed.
And so, just kind of a few different unknowns for me, but again, just finishing on the note that I think it would be very good to revisit this and figure out a way to honor this man, because I think the way in which he passed away was very tragic, and that obviously added to people's desires to honor him. I mean, what a tragic way to go, and so very open to future conversations. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have reports from the administration, the Utah Main Street program, and we have Sarah Meese here tonight to present to us.
Good evening, Chair Blair and council members. We'll be providing a report this evening on the new Utah Main Street program and requesting your support of Ogden Downtown Alliance's participation in this program. I also just want to note that we have Kim Bauscher, Ogden Downtown Alliance's executive director, with us tonight as well. So the new Utah Main Street program, or UMSP, is administered by the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, or Go Utah. UMSP will employ the well-established and successful Main Street America approach, which has been used by communities across the country for more than 35 years. The Main Street approach focuses on community-driven downtown revitalization. Revitalization efforts are organized around economic vitality, good urban design, marketing and promotion, and organization and engagement. So the new UMSP program aims to provide a framework and resources to help communities in Utah with their downtown revitalization efforts. UMSP is currently rolling out in a two-phase process. So in the first phase, communities have the opportunity to apply for designation based on a tiered framework that reflects their current capabilities and downtown efforts. In the second phase, designated communities have the opportunity to apply for additional grant funds to support downtown revitalization. So in our community, we are lucky to have a great partner with Ogden Downtown Alliance, or ODA. And ODA is actually already well underway on downtown efforts that align with the Main Street approach. So they work on items such as placemaking, destination marketing, business support, and arts and events programming throughout our downtown. ODA's primary mission is to increase economic vitality and community vibrancy throughout the downtown business district. So ODA applied for community designation from UMSP, and in November 2021, they were designated as a vibrant Main Street, or a Tier 2 community. As a Tier 2 community, ODA will have the opportunity to apply for downtown enhancement grant funds from UMSP, and that's pending a joint resolution with the city's expression of support for ODA's participation in the program. In the current round of grant funding, ODA can apply for up to $30,000 from UMSP with a 50-50 match requirement, which ODA would fund. Funds can then be used for a variety of revitalization efforts that align with that Main Street approach that we discussed. Tier 2 communities also receive training through UMSP, and UMSP may make additional funding available in the future. So as I mentioned, for ODA to be eligible to apply for the UMSP grant funds, our local community must adopt a joint resolution expressing the community's support for ODA's participation in the program. An expression of the city's support is required to ensure that we have a single organization that is able to manage the UMSP funds and that we don't have conflicting or competing applications for the funding. So we request that you approve and adopt a joint resolution supporting the downtown revitalization focus of UMSP and supporting ODA's participation in the program. Thank you for your consideration, and we look forward to any questions.
Thank you, Sarah.
I have a quick question. I'm sorry. Is there any other competing entity that would want to apply for these funds?
No, not that we're aware of.
I was like, I don't think there's one, right? Okay. Double check.
ODA already performs such a coordinating role within the community and works with many of the other partners that might want to participate in some of these revitalization efforts. So,
thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does Kim Boucher want to come say something?
Salt Lake has
Just for the people online.
Kim Boucher with the Ogden Downtown Alliance. The state put that recommendation in place because there are other communities that did have competing entities that applied even at the tier. When we were applying for the first phase to be the community designee, we were the only from this area that applied, the only in Weber County, in fact, that applied. But Salt Lake had, I think, 7, and they've created 3 different areas. And so they wanted to make sure that those communities had coordination at this level, and that's why that requirement is there.
Great, thank you.
But yeah, I would really appreciate the support of this. $30,000 does not sound like a lot when it comes to downtown revitalization, even when you do a 50-50 match and bring it to 60. But this program allows us to participate at a national level with training and infrastructure support for our organization and how we work with you, as well as the county and the state. And I think it just puts us on a completely different level. And I'm excited for where this allows us to go into, far beyond the $30,000, $60,000 that it will let us fund in the downtown as well. So thank you for hopefully your support.
Thank you.
Chair, I just wanted to get her up here just so I could tell her thank you for the good work she does. And it's noticed in our city. So thank you for your efforts and your staff.
You want to make it a clean sweep?
Sure.
Oh, I was going to do it.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, Chair, I propose that we adopt Resolution 2022-2.
Second.
Great, thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Chaburka to adopt proposed resolution 2022-2 and a second by Councilmember Ritchie. You almost got me. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Heyer,
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez,
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski,
Aye.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka,
Aye.
Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye, that passes. Thank you. Next up, we have new business. First is the election of council chair. With that, I would go ahead and open the nominations for council chair.
Chair, I'd like to nominate Councilmember Nadolski for chair.
I second.
Thank you.
Do we need to make a motion that nominations cease? Or do we just
I don't
call
think
it
so.
good?
I think we just call it good if there's
Okay.
no others.
Chair, I'll make a motion to select Councilmember Chair as Councilmember Nadolski as the chair.
Yeah, and then we have a second. So we're good. Are there going to be any others? No others? Okay. It provides an opportunity for the
Speech.
those elected to give a speech.
No comment. No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
Has he been elected yet?
No.
No.
Oh,
Okay.
I guess
sorry.
I was.
Do you want to make your comments
We
first or after?
want to
you're
make the
elected?
vote first, right?
Did you want me to make?
According to this, you got to speak for a
I
second.
make a
then we
rationale so you
vote.
guys can make a decision.
Yeah.
I was surprised when my family came tonight for this because I would never wish Tuesday nights on them, frankly. But every night we're here, we have a moment of silence, right? And I know that everybody has their own personal way of spending that moment of time. But the first thing that I say to myself when I put my head down is I hope I'm making the right decisions by being here. And then I'm making the right decisions for my girls at home. So my wife and my 2 daughters. I don't take lightly the time that I spend here. It's a lot of time. I know that you guys don't either, but I'm willing to serve as chair because I want to serve, and I want to make sure that the time that I spend away from them is time well spent, that I serve Ogden with the full intent that I came here to do and with. I don't plan on being here for 38 years like Chair Blair.
Don't say that yet.
It's going to be fun. I have 2 years left, and I just want to make the most of it. It's not in search of any particular ideal or platform or issue or anything. It's honestly just a desire to serve and to help. I want to communicate with you guys. I want to help all of us become a strong council. I want to make sure that you guys have an opportunity to express your will, your conscience, to speak your conscience through your votes, and to do so with kindness and with candor. I want to be open. I want to be transparent. I want to be the council that I know that we can become, and I want to help in that way. So if you want those things and you believe that I can help you do that, I would love to help accomplish that for all of us. So thank you in advance if you wish to support me.
Okay. So there is a consideration of motion to select Councilmember Nadolski as council chair. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lopez,
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski,
Aye.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka,
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer,
Aye.
Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye. That passes. Congratulations. And next is the election of council vice chair.
Chair Blair, I'd make a motion to nominate Councilmember Luis Lopez as vice chair.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Chaburka to nominate Councilmember Lopez for vice chair. Is that a voice vote? No?
Yeah, that's just voice vote. Yep. I don't think
we did.
I don't think you even need
no,
a vote.
I don't even think I need to do
That's
that.
just a nomination.
Yep, just a nomination. Sorry. Any other nominations tonight? Okay. We'll provide you the same opportunity to
Thank you,
speak.
Chair. I really appreciate it. I'll be brief. There are probably one of the top 3 or 4 most memorable times of my life. One of them was when I became a U.S. citizen in 2008. And that was sacred to me. It was sacred. And I dreamed about it all the time before that happened. And I have been eternally joyful and grateful after that happened the rest of my life. And along with when that happened, when I decided to run and serve serve my community on the council, I just take my role, as all of you do, very, very importantly in my heart, as making an impact and as having a great impact in the work that I'm doing, and so it is so important to me to, along those lines of becoming a U.S. citizen and appreciating that milestone in my life, helping to maintain our democracy strong is the other aspect that I believe is sacred, as I'm sure all of us do. And so that's why I wanted to run for vice chair this time, because I want to ensure that separation of powers in our form of government, that we maintain it and that we strengthen it, and that I help and that I'm a part of helping our council to play that very important role, to be a good counterbalance in our form of government. And so what that means to me is that my role in leadership means that I need to help our council be the best council that we can be, collectively and individually. So that's all I have to say. I really appreciate it if I get your vote. I guess the other thing also is, I always say that everybody that at some point has criticized someone standing in another position should be willing to step up and be in that position as well. We can't just criticize somebody and not be able to, or not be willing to step up and do that work and be in that role. So I feel that it's important to me to also be in that vulnerable spot and be willing to take criticism as well, and be willing to take a chance to do my part in this very important role. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. There is a consideration of motion to select Councilmember Lopez as vice chair. This is a roll call vote.
Chair Nadolski,
Aye.
Councilmember Ritchie,
Aye.
Councilmember Chaburka,
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer,
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez,
Aye.
Vice Chair White,
Aye.
Chair Blair.
Aye. That passes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Chair Blair, may I make a comment real quick? Well, I guess it's public.
I
knowledge,
believe it's the administration
but- Oh, the oath of office.
of the administration of oath of office for our newly elected.
Well, in the meanwhile, I just wanted to thank both you, Chair Blair, and Vice Chair White for serving this past year. Having been in those positions before, I understand the great responsibility you had, and I appreciate all of the work that you did on our behalf.
Thank you. Yeah.
Here.
Okay, please repeat after me. Raise your right hand, sorry. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties
and that I will discharge the duties
of my office with fidelity.
of my office with fidelity.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Maybe we could talk about
That's a good one, isn't it?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, good idea.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is public comments. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding concerns or ideas on any topic.
Hello, my name is Kerry Wayne. I'm your neighbor across the street over in Marriott Slaterville. I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the meeting that was held last month. I wanted to thank the delegation from Ogden City for coming out and discussing things. I greatly appreciate it. A few of the things I wanted to see happen was I wanted to see some resolution of the issues that we raised. I did not hear that. Also, I did not hear a selection of a date for another meeting. So I'd like to see that as well. We now have over there, I don't know how many of you have driven down the street in the last week or two, but we now have pad 7. They've stood up the walls on it. Gives it even more of a echo chamber over there. The ice and snow is here, and the shadowing of 1200 West is a concern because of the fact that that is just becoming an ice sheet. And, we don't want people hurt on there. We don't want, people driving into the neighbors' homes. And so we'd like to see something done on that if you could help us out. Lori Jones came and spoke with you, pleaded with you about her internet service, the fact that she had to work at home to feed her family and pay for her house. She recently checked with Comcast because of the fact of the unreliability of the wireless carrier. $20,000 is what was given to her as a bid to get service to her home. And so she wants to know what's going to happen. Again, she can't afford to go spend $20,000 to get internet, but she has to have it for her job. Again, Yvonne Long, who spoke to you about the fact that she had to use the internet to speak to her physician. Pad 7 is blocking her internet service. We need to get that resolved for her. Again, the height of the buildings is the big issue, and the fact that they're so close to the road is we were always told it was going to be 40 feet from the road. They built it almost right up against the Perry ditch, and so it's deeply concerning. The other thing we had was trucks. We have a new tenant over in Pad 6. The trucks are coming on Saturday, sitting through the weekend idling. I wanted to talk to you about your idling provision. I mentioned to Boyer, I says, well, there's no restroom facilities over here. Oh, no, we brought in porta potties for them. So now we have a KOA next door to my house. And the diesel fumes collect in the pond area there, the retention pond. So we need to see if we can get that addressed, because I don't believe that's what the intention was when the warehouses were built, that there was going to be overnight camping there. Also, they turned on the lights on Pad 6. And if you tried to sleep in a room that's lit this well, it's very difficult. That's how bright the lights were. I finally convinced Boyer to shut those lights off. We need you to meet again with Marriott Slaterville, see if we can get some of these issues resolved. Again, I thank you for coming out. I appreciate that, that you would do that, because again, we've gotten 9 months of silence out of Boyer. And so please help us if you would then. Okay. Thank you much.
Thank you, Mr. Wayne.
Hi, my name is Hazel Nadolski. Sorry, I just wanted to come up here to say congratulations to Ben Nadolski, Luis Lopez, Angela Chaburka, and Ken Ritchie. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hazel.
You get to live with her, don't you?
That's I was about to make a note. I'm like
that was brave. That was brave.
This is possibly the hardest follow-up I've ever had in my entire life.
Choose your words wisely, Daniel.
Yeah, man. Anyway, I'm going to attempt it. My name is Daniel Matthews, and tonight I'm here representing Indie Ogden, which is a local organization that tries to activate and do some things in the community. And I wanted to give you an update. On December 19th, we held our bazaar, which is an art market that skews a little to, as the name would imply, the weird, the underserved. We really pride ourselves on our high rate of BPOC, people who participate in our market as vendors. We give free spots to kids. We really try to include everybody that we can, and it was such a wonderful honor to be able to hold that event at the Marshall White Center. I think it was fact-finding, was the term we used earlier, by asking people who were there what their thoughts were on the facility. First and foremost, I need to say thank you to the staff. You guys have a superstar over there with Todd. Like, Todd, to put it in perspective, I was hoping to get there early, and he told me that he was going to be there early on his day off to mop the floor in the gymnasium. Well, come to find out, he came in the night before around 11 o'clock to do it because he didn't want to get in our way. Michaela is another one of the staff there that is absolutely phenomenal, bends over backwards. Of all of the places we've been able to hold that market, to put in perspective, we've held the market at the Monarch, the Union Station, the new Ogden's own Distillery. The energy of that building is palpable. If you haven't had the opportunity to be there recently, if those walls could talk, they would sing, and they would sing the praises of a community that has been underserved. The facilities, and I hate to use this expression, are a disappointment. It's a slight on our city, the way that building has been maintained and operated. And that was the majority of the input that I got from, according to the numbers, I think we had over 650 people who came through that day. Our vendors we have about 80 vendors at those. And so that number doesn't include the vendors. We had a diverse, I was really surprised and kind of looking forward to, I think a couple of members here have been to our market before, and we really pull a pretty big swath of people in Ogden. And I would say it was great to see people who I know who came down from the Valley, who came from North Ogden, who came from Shadow Valley, all came to the facility to participate in the event that we were going to provide. We're really looking forward to, I've got a meeting with Todd this week. We're going to continue holding our monthly bazaars at that facility. I would also like to say, with a lot of discussion on how do we promote a sense of community and honor the people who have done amazing things in our community. Wat Masaka needs the new gymnasium at the Marshall White Center named after him. Thank you.
Good. I know.
Okay, we have two hands raised online, so we'll start first with Angel Castillo. Go ahead, Angel. The time is yours.
Thank you, Councilmember Blair. Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. I would like to thank Councilmember Blair again for supporting and being willing to do extra work, as well as Councilmember Lopez, or excuse me, Vice Chair Lopez. I'm sorry, it's going to take a minute to get used to, for working with the applicant on renaming a street or a park or something after Mr. Singh. It's very, very important that we honor the diverse folks that are in our community that are doing good work. You can't be what you can't see, and representation matters. I'd also like to ask the council members to listen to some data. I'm on the Utah Multicultural Affairs Committee COVID-19 force, and I get emails every day from the state epidemiologists, and Utah's cases are currently spiking. And I'm asking you as council members to start messaging to your community to make sure that your folks are vaccinated and boosted. I don't hear anything from the administration, so I'm asking you, because leaders make a difference when they message to the people that they are they're representing. Our cases are spiking, and we need to encourage our community to wear masks, even if they're vaccinated, and avoid large gatherings of people. And that is directly from the Utah Board of Health. In the last 28 days, unvaccinated Utahns were 2.9% more likely, 2.9 times more likely to become infected, 9.6 times more likely to be hospitalized, and 17.5 times more likely to die. And we have kids that are getting sick. Our vaccination rates are for 5 to 11, fully vaccinated, 17.7%, 12 to 15 is 51.8%, 16 and above is good, 71%. But, we still have adults that are lagging. So please, message to your community so that we can get back to normal. People miss people. We want to gather in groups. We want to celebrate each other. We want to eat good food outside and, listen to music this summer. And we don't need any more people to get sick. So please use your positions of power and message to your community to hunker down for one last time. If you're not vaccinated, get vaccinated. If you're not boosted, get boosted. And to wear your mask in places where there are folks that are outside of your bubble. So please message your community and keep us all healthy so that Ogden can continue to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Heath Sato. Go ahead, Heath. The time is yours.
Hi there. Heath Sato, Ogden resident. I'd like to echo Councilmember Lopez's rebuttal to Councilmember Heyer's comments tonight. I agree with Mr. Lopez that the way Mr. Singh died does matter. We wouldn't have 9/11 memorials with names on them if all those people had died of natural causes. So I found that to be an empty argument about this whole thing. So I appreciate Councilmember Lopez's comments that kept the direction of the conversation in check. And I look forward to how we do eventually honor this man that died while serving his community. Secondly, I'd like to congratulate Councilmember Nadolski and Councilmember Lopez on their selection as chair and vice chair, respectively. As mentioned by Carrie Wayne tonight, I hope this new leadership of City Council means we will spend more time speaking to concerns about how we treated Marriott Slaterville. We truly need to work with them after the way our city harmed them for our own profit in the most immoral way, particularly since our mayor has already irresponsibly washed his hands of it. Also, on the heels of Daniel Matthews' comments, I expect to see far more attention given to the Marshall White Center, and the selection of council members Nadolski and Lopez gives me a lot of hope that leadership will be far more effective on these important issues than we've seen prior. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Next, we have Sebastian Benitez. Go ahead, Sebastian. The time is yours.
Hello, guys. This is Sebastian Benitez from Ogden. I am really happy. I am not in town. I take my wife really far away because family health issue. But I want to congratulate for you both today about the nomination. The street is really common sense. I want to congratulate everyone who was elect and re-elect on the city council. I applaud you guys. Thank you, Barb, for your job. Marcia, Chuberka, and Ricky. I want to thank to you because you are involving in the community for no necessary money for service. I want to congratulate Ben Landowski and Luis to take the step to lead this part in this time in our community. It's a difficult time. I applaud Carrie Wayne to continue fighting for that, for the Caldwell Wall there. They call the neighborhood called that one. Especially I want to thank to the work Luis and Ben are mentioned today. I want to tell you guys, I am immigrant like Luis. We are here to learn, to help. We are here to continue protecting the democracy in this country. I'd like to remind you, because the military service I serve, I've been in the two dictatorship nation, and I applaud this nation. The United States is a really great nation. I'm blessed by God. Thank you, Luis. Thank you, Ben. And I feel like the sun is coming after the storm. You guys are hero for my community, Ogden. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other further comments, we'll take comments from the administration.
Thanks, Chair. Just to respond to a couple of the comments, we did have a meeting with Marriott Slaterville, with the mayor, and with Bill Morris, the city manager. We committed that we would get together this month and start to go through the issues that have been raised. Mr. Morris was actually out of town for the holidays and we were unable to meet. So I've kind of given him a few days to catch up, and then we're going to try and set up something in the next few weeks to get together with our team and his to start to see if we can work through the issues. So we are working towards that. Eventually, hopefully we will be able to then have another meeting with the community, which we can sit down and go through with where we are. So we are working on that. Second, apparently we haven't done a very good job of getting out how we feel about vaccinations. We've held a couple of clinics where we've given vaccinations to our employees and their families. We encourage everyone to be fully vaccinated, which includes the booster. We think we've encouraged our employees. We will do a better job at making sure that word gets out, because in our opinion is very, very important and is something that we hope everyone takes advantage of. I would like to thank, on behalf of the administration, Councilmember Blair and White for their service. I have been the vice chair and I have been the chair, and I know what it entails, and I know the extra effort that it requires, and I really appreciate your effort and what you've done and how you've done it. I congratulate Chair Nadolski and Vice Chair Lopez and wish you well, and we look forward to working with you as the council leadership in the future. I would like to just bring up one other thing that I think is significant to us. I don't want to let to this day go by without commenting about Officer Frankham, who was killed 10 years ago today, and several officers were injured in the same event. It was a very traumatic way to begin Mayor Caldwell's time as mayor. Our hearts are still full for the Frankham family and for what happened that day. And it was a pretty emotional experience to go through, and it still is when Officer Lyday was killed. But we wanted to remember today Officer Frankham. It's morning in our directors meeting. We held a moment of silence as a senior team for Officer Frankham, just remembering his great sacrifice he made for our city. Hopefully you don't mind. That was kind of a personal thing, but I think it was appropriate to mention. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from council members?
Chair, if I can take this minute too, that was my first day in office as well. Mayor Caldwell and I were sworn in the same day. He, of course, had a more of a brunt of that event than I did, but it was devastating to our whole community when we woke up that morning and learned what had happened. And it's nice that we were able to honor him with naming the public safety building after him. Today, also, if I'm not mistaken, is 126 years since Utah has become a state. So that's kind of a a red letter day also. And I have lived in Utah all my life, other than just a few momentary trips out. And I'm, as well as Ogden, I'm an Ogden boy through and through. Like Doug Stevens said yesterday, it was his hometown. Well, it certainly is my hometown too. I was born in the park up on Harrison. There was a hospital there then, but that's where I was born. And anyway, it's grateful to be a member of this great city. I want to issue my heartfelt thanks for Chair Blair, outgoing Chair Blair, and outgoing Vice Chair White. I also have served in those jobs, and they are thankless, as you understand. A lot of extra work, not a lot of extra thanks. It's just kind of part of the nature of the thing. And I think Councilmember Lopez or Vice Chair Lopez, you're going to learn that. I think Chair Nadolski already understands it. And we take our turn. We sign up when we take our turn when it's time. But I want to offer any support that I can to your success as leadership. I hope that we can be effective as a council, but not at the detriment of relationships that need to be strong with our administration. That is my ongoing desire always. So I think we can do that if we just put our heads together and work towards that. So anyway, congratulations to the two of you for your newly elected positions, and welcome back to the ranks for the two of you.
Yep, thank you. Any others?
I'm also an Ogden town boy. I only been here 25 years, but I call myself an Ogdenite now. And Mr. Wayne, I probably at a minimum, I will try to ask every week in our public meetings about progress on the issues that are going on. So hopefully if you are able to tune in remotely, so you don't have to come here every week, you might be able to hear an update if the administration has one. But I will ask, and that's the least that I can do. So just want to let you know that. And I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Chair, can I say a couple things? I want to congratulate Councilmember Vice Chair Lopez. I think it's safe to say I know him best in this room. And he and I met the first day, for the first time, the day that we both signed our name to run for city council. We had heard about each other, looked forward to meeting each other. We ran into each other in the recorder's office, and I just tell you that day was a blessing and a gift. This whole experience has been a blessing and a gift. But I can tell you guys, with what I know about him, taking that oath of office, it means a lot to this man because of what this man's been through. And so, Rich, you and I talked about the reverence we have for that flag and the oath, the Constitution of the United States. And that you and I both looked at it the other day with a different reverence that we needed. I just congratulate you for all that you have been through and the reverence that you have for that same oath that brings you here tonight. You're an incredible man.
Thank you so much.
I'll just add my voice to what Luis already said about what you need in terms of how we serve Gary. I really appreciate Councilmember Lopez's leadership on helping to bring that meeting together, bring people to the table. I sat in the meeting. It was very productive. I was surprised that meeting hadn't already happened, but I'm thankful that it did. And it did seem like there's room to make some improvements and for problems to be solved. And there does seem to be some genuine willingness to do that from the administration. I think we'll see those things come together, but we'll look forward to updates here as time passes too. Okay. Daniel, thank you for sharing your words. you lit a fire in me when you talked about the staff at the Marshall White Center. We talk a lot about our partnership with, YMCA, who is an incredible organization, because they are great at running rec centers. And maybe if we have a new rec center in Ogden, maybe they are a good fit for us to run but it's not because our people are not capable. We know that. They're unbelievable. And you mentioned that energy that is in that building when you were there. I've experienced it because I coach kids there with my wife. I coach my 2 daughters in basketball there every week. The staff are there on point. They provide everything. The place is spotless for us and ready to go. But the feeling that you're feeling, that energy in the walls, it's the people that put it there. It's the people that are in those walls that give that energy to those walls, to that place. And so I share that with you guys because when you spend time there and you spend time with the people, you feel it. And the people that come here, they speak with passion. It's because they're speaking about that feeling they've had when they're there. They don't want that feeling to go away. They just want it to be that same feel in a better building, a bigger building in that same place. And people are really scared that we're going to lose that feeling by moving that building. And so it's incumbent on us to make sure that we give people the certainty, the comfort, that we recognize, we appreciate, we treasure that feeling because they've all contributed to it by keeping the Marshall White there. And so I look forward to the conversation we're about to have. And I welcome all of your conscience in that conversation because it is a matter of conscience. Thank you.
Any others? Okay. I have a couple comments. First of all, those that were here yesterday, Councilmember Heyer had a great idea. I'd first like to welcome Councilmember Ritchie. I think people just assumed you were here yesterday, and so it's now just full steam ahead. So, no, but welcome. I'm excited to have you here, and I'm excited to work with you, and I know I speak for everyone for that. Councilmember Heyer had an idea yesterday, and that was to have the newest council member make the first motion, and I just thought that was awesome, and I think that should be, I don't know if we can put it in the norms, but maybe we could put it underneath this glass, and it stays forever, because I just thought that was a great welcome to a new council member and a great way to get your feet wet and do that. So thanks for bringing that up. I thought that was awesome. I have a question for the administration, and I know you're going to feel the same way I felt when people called me, so I'm not looking for resolve right now, just some questions. Last week with Disneyland and the Rose Bowl, I got more calls than I ever had about the Ogden Airport and the airline, about flights being delayed and flights not being when they're supposed to be there or not, whatever. I kind of thought, well, there's nothing I can do about it. I don't know what I'm going to do. Then last night I went down with my family to get on a plane, and it was not there either. And it's hard to walk into a room and see 150 people sitting on the floor upset. So I understand that there's been some flights delayed, and if we could just get some, not tonight, if I could just get some, I'm sure there's various roles or various reasons, but I just said I would get some information on why we're getting flights delayed.
Chair, and if I can add to your comment, I had a similar concern. My daughter took a flight last month or 2 months ago, and on her way back from California, when she landed here, she stayed in the plane for about 2 hours. And they told her that they didn't have enough ramps to get them out or something. Yeah. So just wanted to add that.
Just a clarifying question, Vice Chair, was she landing in Ogden? Okay, I'll look into that.
And I have dates in times if you need them.
Which airline did she fly?
Avello. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We had less problems with flights than Salt Lake City and about every other airport in the nation over the Christmas break. Typically, we aren't having a lot of issues with that. But I think with the flight, with the amount of COVID that is out there, and the airlines is struggling with staff right now. Every airline is, and then there's weather issues. Sometimes the weather issue isn't here, but the weather issue might be where they're coming from. So we can ask the airline about their delays, but our airport usually isn't responsible for those unless we can't get the runway plowed fast enough.
And I understand that. It just seemed like it all hit it in a short period of time, which cost them a lot.
Well, they could have opened a hotel in the middle of the new Salt Lake Airport over the Christmas break because they had so many people stranded there because they just couldn't get on planes. So. But I will look into maybe more definite information, and I will definitely look in why someone wasn't able to deplane here in Ogden.
Great. Thank you. I too have a couple more comments. First off, I'd like to thank Vice Chair White. It has been an honor to serve with her. I know that sometimes the hardest thing to do is to be next to someone that you know you're better than, smarter than, and still let him do all the talking. So she did it with great honor and great poise, and I appreciate her willingness to serve with me and to help me and walk me through and be by my side throughout this. So I appreciate everything that she did for me, and I truly enjoyed my time serving with Vice Chair White. So thank you so much. To the new council leadership, Ben and Luis, I want to offer you my support. I support you. I'm excited for your passion and your the skills that you'll bring to this position, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So just offer my support, and let you know I'm here for you, and I wish you nothing but success.
Thank you.
Yep. With that's all, then I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So
Motion to adjourn. Oh, looks like new guy got it.
Yeah.
Did somebody second already?
I just said so moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion to adjourn by Councilmember Ritchie and a second by Councilmember Heyer. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Do we need to announce that we're moving back to we're not doing work session
We are
anymore?
going back.
We are?
You have to tell anybody.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Back to work.